I've been blocked 4 times this year from going to see my mum. So that is a bit of, her 80th birthday went, I couldn't even go, that was hard.
At that point, we kind of still, not in lockdown, but going back in and out, So it's a bit like, when is this going to end kind of thing.
And the whole issue of isolation as we went through was becoming really apparent, the lack of that contact. So the senior saints usually meet once a month, but that was not happening.
Last year was horrible. It was very tough, and everybody was inside, you can't go out.
I wasn't really talking to my friends as much because it just didn't feel like the same really.
Just days before Christmas, London and many of the areas surrounding it are moving to a new Tier 4, an even tougher round of coronavirus restrictions. And the festive plans that many Londoners will have made will now have to be cancelled.
Mr. Speaker, these restrictions will come into force at midnight on Wednesday morning. Because when the virus moves quickly, we must move quickly too.
First, we will introduce new restrictions in the most affected areas, specifically those parts of London, the South East and the East of England, which are currently in Tier 3.
Yeah, I think we was hoping to come out of lockdown. It seemed to be leading that way, that, all the restrictions were going to come down, and so we were hoping to start planning again. We were hoping to start, we've got a new year coming up.
Obviously very disappointing because I feel like that was what everyone was looking forward to in the new year. You thought it was, not thought it was going to go away, but you thought it was going to get better. And then it was kind of the same thing, and it felt like just a repeat of 2020.
And so I was just considering all that, weighing up, and then there was lockdown. And then there was a possibility I could go, but I could maybe not get back. But then what happened is when I went back to work, they says, Carrie, you've got to cancel your holidays, you can't have it.
It's not good to go back to lockdown again.
And so I think people were feeling the frustration of all these restrictions. We want to go forth and do things, but we can't. We want to fellowship. We want to pursue the things of God, and which we were doing. But we want outreach. We've always been the church that functioned outside of the 4 walls of the building, and to be told that we can't do it, and even restrictions of how we function in the building, it's just frustrating.
Everyone knows in the news at the time, we had those that were elderly were more prone to COVID. Those that from black and minority ethnic communities were more, and this was the group really, because most of our members of the Senior Saints are from that background, Caribbean or African. So we were very concerned. I know Pastor Brown particularly was, and spoke to me and really wanted to make sure, because they were shielding, all of them. A number have ongoing serious medical issues as well, and really making sure that they were looked after. So when you look at, as I said at the beginning of the pandemic, that was a real concern, and I know the whole congregation and many of those that are in this ministry have been praying for the Senior Saints and they themselves for covering, but God has kept his hand upon them in a supernatural way.
I think people kind of got used to it, and what was powerful is that our pastor was ahead of the game, and he has strategies ahead of the game. So if you notice, our church, we still You know, we kept to the COVID rules and did all that we did, but we still powered on. And, you know, I think what was encouraging in congregation, we saw a lot of newer people coming in, even in the pandemic.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to impact teams, because I never used to go on impact teams before. But now that I'm like a bit older, I can go on impact teams. Obviously, youth impact teams, there's another one this Saturday, there's been quite a few. And yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to a lot, impact teams.
I'm just looking forward to the fact that when we all come back in, it will be, people think differently, because this whole year I very much doubt this whole year hasn't changed anybody. It would have changed a lot of people, even a little, or even if it's big, that would change. But as a church, we've just grown spiritually, because who's been through anything like this?
I think we, especially in like 2020, we missed out like things like outreaches, especially like concerts and all that, impact teams as well. I think I don't know whether we're wording it the right way, like make up for lost time, in the sense where the amount of souls that we could have touched, the amount of lives that could have been saved, that missed out on because they were at home and we were at home. I think like there's going to be like real revival. I think we're going to push really hard to maximize the amount of souls that we can actually save now. I think so, even like services being opened up again to like come into more than one, for example, so that more people can feel comfortable coming to church.
Church is just, it's a place for, you know, connecting with people and with experiencing God's presence. Even though you can experience God's presence anywhere, but like church is just like, it's his house, and it's just, you know, you want to make the most of it and like join in ministry. The times when I felt like my relationship with God was the strongest was when I was like involved in ministry, when I was singing and doing drama. Connecting with other people like in the church was really important to me. And yeah, it just makes you feel like, it just gives you a purpose, and it's like, that's what we're here to do, and that's what Christ said, that's what we're supposed to do, you know.
You can feel like an element of like, this is important, this is a foundation, this is like something that is going to change people.
Church kids have a privilege, you know, they're in there, they get to organize concerts. It made me proud in the sense that the next generation are rising up. It's just a great thing to see that the youth take on responsibility.
I had a conversation with a couple of the youth members, and we were just talking about how, you know, adults can always encourage you to do stuff for youth, but at the end of the day, youth is our own, and if we want to see other youth being saved, we need to be stepping out. Not obviously other people can do it, but it's our responsibility to see the youth and also saved. So I think doing events is important because that's our own, that's the role that we have in the church. Yeah, so I think it is quite important.
Youth need a vision, you know. So when they see that we've got that vision still, I think it makes them ask us questions, respect us, and they have this, but not just for me or just for the guys in Waltham Forest, but for pastors who are out. And you know, there's a new group of pastors right now who are, they've been influenced directly by my generation, and I could name names, but I won't. But these men are one day these men are going to take the world. Luis Avellino, Carmel, these men, Eric Mumba, they're incredible. Kyle, they're amazing. That one day these guys are going to do greater than we've ever done. And hopefully we'll be in heaven looking down, or old men in wheelchairs looking down going, that's right. That's what we believed God for. You know what I mean? So it's just tremendous watching it. What we're doing is to facilitate them doing that. And when they do that, the less we're involved, the better. But when I was pastoring in Northampton, there was a stage where the disciples in that church came to me and they said, we want the speakers and we want the PA because we want to do an outreach outside the nightclub. And I remember saying in my heart, this is it. Let them run with it. Don't interfere. And when I just said, okay, yeah, and they went off and they did it. And from that moment, the church began to not just grow physically, but spiritually. They were now running the church. And that's kind of what I felt when I saw the youth do that. And we need to not keep out of their way completely. There needs to be oversight, but at the same time, we just need to let them run with it. Because they can reach their generation. Same way we try to reach ours, they can reach theirs. And it's exciting.
I'd say it was normal, like, obviously, like, you have respect for your elders, obviously, but, like, I think there'd be, like, a sense of respect and, like, just common conversation. Like, maybe you find someone as, like, a role model, someone you could look up to, like, where you seek advice or you seek help sometimes, or you just need someone to talk to, like, just to vent to. I think people or youth would find, like, their own mentors in a sense.
We have, like, ideas that we want to bring forth. And there's definitely, like, whether or not, like, other people will get it, there's definitely other youth that will really resonate with that.
I was like, yeah, because in my heart I said, the youth are going to prophesy. I feel it. I said, I don't care, the youth are going to prophesy. Like, I could feel, like, people always saying, like, nah, the youth are going to prophesy. It's revival. That's the revival we're in. We used to always hear about Folkestone Road and the wall sweating. Folkestone Road and the wall sweat, we'll have spiritual sweat here as well. That's that kind of, let's go.
The church is not flimsy. It's not weak. You know, over this period, there are people who have testified that they've grown. People have testified that they've grown spiritually, in the word, in prayer. People have testified of how God has met with them, and even in their own homes, they've had encounters with God. And, you know, people have testified of growth. People have testified of, you know, before, when we was going into COVID, there was a fear of finances and so forth. But people have testified of being blessed.
I see God taking us, He's increasing us. He's increasing us. There's an increase that's taking place. There's young men that's rising. I mean, we see loads of new souls, new individuals coming in and being baptized, and coming to the new members class. And we see a lot of newness, of people going out to the streets now. There's like a push going back to the streets and reaching out.
We are definitely, I think, starting to kind of, you know, take it up a notch, you know, from where we were. You know, we did a little bit of outreach in here and there, as much as we could, whenever we could. Now we're, you know, more consistent with that. Now we're sort of starting to come out on the streets more. Right now, in this time now that we are, where we're coming out, I think it's really important for us to be on the streets, preaching, declaring the message. Because in all the time that people were, you know, we were on that lockdown situation, you know, people weren't hearing the message. You know, there was no voice on the street.
Now is people are questioning, is there a God out there? And especially how things are happening with like Israel versus Palestine, as well as famine in different countries and wars. I think now it's more the sense of people are open to the gospel.
So coming out of lockdown, I think there'll be a lot more people. Because of the spread of things, a lot more people participating, spreading their faith witnessing and doing stuff like that. And I think with us coming out of lockdown, I think we're a lot more resilient to what happens.
there's a lot of pent-up spiritual investment in people. They want to be in church, they want to worship, and it's been building up. And I think the day that there's completely no restriction, again, lockdown has played on people's minds, so it's not going to be 1 to 10 straight away. It will go through the gears, but I believe we'll get to that point where the building will be packed, people will be excited.
Our conferences have an atmosphere, they have a spirit to them. And I think it's the favor of God. We're doing what we're called to do. I think Pastor Mitchell was the one that put the emphasis and taught us to put the emphasis on the conference. And he truly believed that it was a conference for lay people. We needed a conference for everybody. As you're involved, doors open and things happen. So as a pastor, to watch so many people be involved, it gives me such confidence. Jesus said that if you're going to be great in the kingdom, you have to serve. And so as a pastor, when I saw the list of names, we do like a screen roll at the end of the conference, and the multitudes of people that took a week off work just to help and create a forum where others can hear the word of God. I mean, you can see why God says it's precious. You can see why God says it's valuable, because they are creating something for other people to be refreshed by God. And in doing so, there's a blessing upon the individual that serves. They're right in the will of God. And many times it's through ministry that a person begins to, one, connect with brethren, begin to build relationships, but also begin to feel God's leading, begin to learn the next step. Most of us start somewhere, and then you begin to meet others, you have conversations, and you find that God, it's through ministry and being involved that God leads you to the next step and the next purpose, if you like, for your own destiny. Only the Spirit of God would take very ordinary people, would be doing such acts of service. It gives you an incredible sense that what we're a part of is a miracle, and this is a work of God and not a work of man. We've just finished a huge building project in restoring the balcony. It was a huge task, but all it's done is given us an appetite to want to finish the auditorium at least. And the reason why is we feel God gave us this building. There's something about this building that it has a glory to it. Our dream of now we've got what we call the workshop, which is the building at the edge of the car park. We've purchased that now, we have ownership of it now, but it is fairly small, but our aim, as you know, is to build up and across the car park and eventually connect it to this building. And so we will have an auditorium the size of Folkestone Road, the auditorium we used to have in Folkestone Road. That's what the size would be. So you can see God preparing us for future growth and revival. That prayer room is going to become key.
Conference is the highlight because it is the actual playing out of everything that we want to do, which is the actual sending of churches. It's the sending of new works. And then it happens and it's like a euphoric release of everything that you've been praying and fasting for, giving to, and then it happens and you're like, yes.
I believe we're going to be a supernatural church. We're going to have a greater impact that we've ever had. I mean, you can feel it in church. There's a momentum, there's a fire, there's an excitement. We've got all the ingredients there for revival. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's people sparking up.
Expect revival instead of us waiting, oh, we want revival, but when God's in the midst working in the background and we're like, where is it, Lord?
The whole thing about using my God is service, isn't it? So if you think, how can God use me? You can start here, like, okay, what can I do in church? Speak to somebody. A lot of this is based on friendships, isn't it? So it's not, speak to somebody you think, okay, they do stuff in church. I'll speak to them. What do they do? How can I get involved in it?
God delivered us so that we can be able to deliver someone else. And we're people who give ourselves.
We have numbers of men in our church and women that God is stirring for the supernatural, the laying on of hands, praying for the sick, the gifts of the Holy Ghost. And my prayer is that would be multiplied and that each individual, that we would see out of our congregation, like I don't know how to say it, like historic, like people that they're marked by God. And some will have great public ministries, others in the private place, but that each men and women, they've been marked by God for a real destiny and purpose. And I hope and I trust and I desire that's going to be accelerated this year.